Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for our live webinar. We are all in kind of unusual situation here, but we appreciate the opportunity to be together remotely to discuss our program with you and investing in your futures. So today we're going to be discussing our program and one of our elective courses, User Experience, with our Professor Spotlight, Professor Jason Buell. Please be sure to occasionally refresh your browsers and turn up the volume on your device so you can hear audio. If you have questions, please note the Q&A box shown below. We'll be sure to address these questions at the end of the webinar. Please do not hesitate to ask questions here throughout the presentation. Looking to our agenda, my name is Jacqueline, and I'll be the facilitator of today's webinar. We have with us our program director, Dr. Ellen Leggett, and in the faculty spotlight, we have Dr. Jason Buell. Today we're going to go over the Applied Psychology program and curriculum, share with you some career directions, meet one of our professors, Dr. Buell, discuss practical applications of this degree, and finally go over next steps and how to apply. I'm now going to turn it over to our program director, Dr. Ellen Leggett. Dr. Leggett, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Jacqueline, and welcome to all of you on this webinar. We love the opportunity to talk about our program because we have 6 years of experience designing an online master's degree that we feel is state-of-the-art and also unique in probably the world from what we have been told and heard from students. The background that I bring to this enterprise is a background in both psychology and business. Having earned my doctorate at Harvard, I went off and spent the past 30 years working for industry in a field that didn't exist when I was a college student, like many of you. I was looking for a way to use psychology in the world. I wasn't really interested in sitting in an ivory tower. And I was fortunate through some unusual encounters, chance encounters, to meet someone who had just started a consulting firm putting together psychologists with trial lawyers. And I took the risk of joining what at that time was a startup firm in a startup industry and had a very exciting career for over 30 years working with corporations and their legal teams at the times when companies are facing jury trials. I've loved being a jury expert. But the opportunity to come to USC and to develop this program brings together my passion for psychology, the experiences of using psychology in the real world, and opportunities for students or employees with psychological background or interest to sharpen their skills and see the world that we face right now through the lens of psychology with an eye towards how we can help. This is, as I said, my seventh year in this program, and it is our 6th year of having the program be online. We've basically had one main premise, and that is that understanding human behavior is central to issues that companies and organizations of all kinds face. The problems of motivating employees and reaching a workforce that is more global than ever, and motivating consumers to stay active in what now is a global marketplace. And I think at this point in our history as a country, we're feeling the connectedness to the rest of the world in ways perhaps not experienced even before in quite the same way. The program focuses on consumer psychology and organizational psychology, both, with the assumption that both are important, and students don't need to identify one or the other as their major, so to speak. We require courses in both. And our hope is that by the end of the program, students actually realize that they are interwoven and inform each other in ways that are going to be what gives our students a unique viewpoint when they enter and proceed into the workforce. The consumer psychology is looking at why consumers do what they do in the marketplace and building marketing plans, understanding through research what their decision-making processes are. And organizational psychology is looking at employees in much the same way. How do employees perceive their work and their work environment, and how does it impact the productivity and enjoyment of their work? Both of these areas, we have specific faculty that are experts in these areas and have been chosen specifically because they have both psychology background and industry experience. And I think what you'll hear from Dr. Buell today is that the rapidly emerging field of user experience and user experience research is applicable and draws from both consumer psychology as well as organizational psychology. Career outlook for both human resources and organizational psychology, as well as market research and consumer insights, are on the upswing and should continue to be growing. We're hearing right now, even at this unusual time in our history, that HR and consumer insights continue to be areas that will be much needed. And as you'll hear from Dr. Buell, we're at a time when user experience and how we all are interfacing with technology becomes even more relevant, and the career outlook is bright there as well. What do we actually do in this program? I want to give you just a snapshot here. First of all, it's a very challenging, accelerated degree program where the online degree can be achieved in 16 months with a program that assumes 2 courses per term. The program also includes an internship, which for many folks who may already be in a career or working already, this becomes an opportunity to cross-train often at the place that you currently work. And we also require a capstone research project. As I mentioned, we are very proud of our practitioner faculty, very innovative faculty that really, I think, are trying to make a program that they wish they could have taken, or we wish we could have taken if we were at an earlier point in our own careers and lives. But we're passionate, I think, each and every one of us, about the role that psychologists can play in industry, not necessarily with a title that says psychologist, but with applying psychology tools and theories to problems and other arenas within companies. And most of our faculty, if not all, have had experience actually being in organizations doing applied work. And lastly, we really have a contemporary approach to education. This is a program that puts you into teams. You will be doing real-world projects and case studies, often even consulting projects for companies or organizations. And using data is very important in our program because this is a Master of Science program. Research skills are used in the program to teach you how to translate what you might know about research now, but tweak it a little bit towards applied settings and making it more useful for companies to use research. The globally relevant curriculum is something we care a lot about and have been creating some innovative ways for our students to have global experiences, and I'll tell you more about that as we go along. The requirements in the program are some foundation courses that all students take, and then some elective courses and some practica. The foundation courses are both consumer and organizational psychology, a research methods in applied psychology course, and a 2-course sequence in what we call professional seminar that is broken into some theoretical foundations in the first course, and in the second course, more applications and workplace. Actually, we do workshops in the second part of that course. The required practica, I've already mentioned, the internship or professional development opportunity and the capstone applied research treatise. From the electives, over on the right, you see listed towards the bottom there, user experience UX research, and that's what Dr. Buell will be talking about today. But additionally, you'll see other electives which round out the curriculum and it really enables students to choose electives that meet their personal interests. The internship and treatise opportunities as well provide those same experiences that you can bring whatever your personal interests are to this program and make it customized for your own interests. Quickly mentioning the global relevance, we're very proud of the fact that as a master's program, we have at least 2 ways for students to go abroad. Very rare in master's programs. I've read recently that only 5% of master's programs have international opportunities for students. And one is a work experience that we make possible in the summer for students to live and work in Dublin, Ireland. The second is a spring break trip, which we have faculty members lead. It's totally optional, not tied to any course, but we have gone to Dubai. I took the first group to Dubai a year ago, and we expect once we have all been cleared to travel that these programs will continue. They have been well received and are fully supported by our faculty. So we look forward to being able to continue offering the summer internship in Dublin as well as spring break trips either to Dubai or some other locations. I think at this point I've laid the groundwork for Dr. Buell, and I'm delighted to be able to introduce him to you. He comes to us very, very well prepared to be an expert in user experience as well as from his academics and earning his doctorate in psychology at Columbia University. Dr. Buell, do you want to take it over for now? Thank you for being here. Can you want to tell us a little bit more about your background?
Absolutely, and thanks for laying the groundwork so well, Dr. Leggett. Thanks to everyone else for joining today. It's funny, I was reflecting, you said so many of us wish this program had been available to us before we started our careers outside of academia. I sometimes think that now. I look at, every time I hear you talk about the program, I think, I'd love to take that class on consumer psychology, and gosh, I'd love to take Dr. Luke's advanced quantitative methods class. So yeah, I'm really quite proud of the program, including my slice of the program, which I'll talk more about in a moment. But first, as Dr. Leggett noted, my background is initially in academia. I spent about a decade conducting academic research and completed my PhD at Columbia. I decided I wanted to leave the academic world as my primary focus, at least, and started doing consulting and educational technology, very hot topic these days, and learned about digital product development through that work and user experience research. And I just think it's so interesting. Looking back, I had never heard the term user experience research in all my time in grad school. What a difference today. I all the time, folks reach out to me who are working on their PhDs, Columbia or elsewhere. I think it's the #1 job that psychology PhD students go into after they get their PhD if they're leaving academia. That was not at all the case a few years ago. Really speaks to the growth in the field. Today I work for a company called Answer Lab. We're the largest research agency. That means we just do research for other big companies. We're about 130 plus people, and we do research across the Fortune 1000. I primarily work for a few of the biggest companies, the companies that do the most user experience research out there, includes Google and Facebook, also a few other companies in other areas, including Genentech, eBay, PayPal, and a few others. And my team, probably this year, we're going to do, a little hard to say with everything happening with coronavirus, but I do expect we'll do probably more than 700 studies total. That's just the part of Answer Lab that I'm responsible for as in total. And so I'll probably do about 1,000 studies this year. And with that, I would love to jump into conversation that's a little more focused on UX research itself. I imagine some of you have joined this webinar because you're already interested in UX research, and others probably don't know what it is. So I wanted to start with just a quick overview. UX research is the study of users, people who are using a product or service, and also potential users. Before we build a product or service or make changes to a product or service, we want to make sure we really understand the folks out there who might use it, and we want to make sure that we're building something that's going to meet real needs. That's the focus of this field. We see research existing on a spectrum. Now, a lot of people, even today, and some companies, this is still the case. If you talk about user experience research, they'll think of highly evaluative work. They'll think of, well, can people go from step 1 to step 2 on this website? Can people find the button on this locker system, like those Amazon locker systems you can go to and pick up a package, whatever it might be? That is absolutely a big part of our work, really important. For those of you who've been using software for a long time, you might remember just how difficult software was some years ago. So much easier to use things today, and that's because of user experience research. At the same time, huge focus and really a growing focus in our field is on the more strategic end of research. That research that's done even before you build or think about how to build a product or service. Increasingly, we're seeing that strategic research is also being demanded by the C-suite, by upper-level folks in these companies who really want to make sure that all of their decisions are informed by this deep user-centric approach. So that might mean that you're thinking about building, let's say, looking at my history, some technology for the classroom. Well, you go into lots of different classrooms, all kinds of different schools in urban environments, rural environments. You really make sure you really understand that environment and that situation before you even figure out what you're going to build, and for sure before you build a blueprint of how you're going to build it. I think one of the things that also really distinguishes user experience research from some other forms of applied insights research is our focus on observing users and potential users very carefully, and really trying to understand their mind, how they think about the world, not just by asking them. That's going to be important too, but really trying to use more thoughtful methods to more comprehensively construct an understanding of their outlook, so then we can analyze the situation and make the best decisions for them. And I just want to be really clear about that, because some people think, oh, you just ask them what they want, write it down, pass it on. That's not an interesting job for me. That is not at all what we do. The focus is really on figuring out those needs in a way that's more accurate, but often a little more circuitous. It takes a lot more preparation and thought. Also, a lot of people, they think of user experience research, they'll say, oh, that's a tech job, and I'm not interested in tech, so it's not a job for me. Well, it is certainly true that user experience research really got its start and is still most dominant in the technology sector, but it's rapidly growing. I find when I go to conferences or meetups, meet folks, I'm always amazed at all the different places that user experience is growing into. Last year, I met a guy, one of my favorites, I met a guy who works for a construction company, really big construction company. He said, I don't study websites or apps. I study how people dig holes. You know, but you can bring all these same skills, all this approach to that kind of work and really figure out how to help people build holes better, more efficiently, more safely, and so on.
Can you talk a little bit more about the kind of careers that, I mean, you've mentioned it, but why would a student think that UX should be for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, part of the MAP process will be that voyage of discovery. You get to hear from a lot of different professionals applying psychology in a lot of different areas. And I think a lot of students come in thinking that they're interested in one thing and learn about other opportunities and shift their focus. Some things that I think lead people to decide on UX research over the course of their MAP careers is, well, if you really are interested in people and behavior, it's a great fit. Now, of course, all applied psychology fields do incorporate that focus to some degree, but I think that's particularly a focus of UX research, that careful study of people, careful study of their behavior. And, you know, if you're the kind of person who get really, really into something that other people say, oh, that's such a small thing, that's not interesting, but you say, wow, I love that diving deeper experience, really want to understand in detail how people experience that process and how they think about it. Oh, it's a great fit for you. Also, I think something that really sets user experience research aside from some of the other areas of applied psychology is not all jobs, not all roles are like this, but the vast majority sit on product teams. So you'll be sitting next to a designer, next to a product manager, next to a data scientist, or maybe three of each of those roles, working together to actually build things that people will use, will make a difference in their lives. For me, that was something that I really loved when I left academia and started building things and seeing it. You could build a site or put a new feature on an app, ship it out in days. You could see that thousands, tens of thousands of people were using it, making a difference in their lives. That's really a lot of fun. I also say that it's a very dynamic and exciting place to be right now. Like I said, I had never even heard of it when I finished my PhD back in 2011. And now it's the first opportunity, the first kind of job that most PhD students are thinking about if they're thinking about leaving academia. I've seen tremendous growth. I mentioned I work very closely with Facebook. Well, I started working closely with them about 3.5 years ago. At that time, they had 150 researchers on staff. I know now they have upwards of 600, and that's in addition to the hundreds of studies they do with us and other agencies. We're seeing similar growth in a lot of these big tech companies at the same time as we're seeing penetration into all kinds of new areas, particularly financial services. It's really expanded their focus on UX. So it's an exciting time to be in this field. It's also challenging because the field is changing, it's evolving rapidly, we're bringing in new methods. So if that sounds stimulating and exciting to you, then I think UX research is a great choice. And lastly, I'll mention that I do think relative to some of the other options in applied psychology, UX research is particularly lucrative, seeing that entry-level positions, typically folks are earning really at a minimum in the 60s, and I'm seeing some people, even entry-level positions, really earn quite a bit higher than that. Now, if you're lucky enough to get into some of these top companies, a Google, a Facebook, and Amazon, people are even making in excess of $110,000 just in their base salary. And that's tough. I don't want to give anyone the illusion that you can just waltz right into a job like that, but we're very lucky here at MAP. We have some alums who are quite successful, even though user experience research is relatively new still to our program. We have 2 alums at Google. We also have alums at Blizzard, at my own company, Amsterlab, at Morgan Stanley. I actually just heard last night from one of our online students that she has an interview to work at Microsoft, so fingers crossed for her. So definitely a lot of opportunity, though, to get some of those great positions. And I do see the demand is just increasing quite rapidly in the field all the time. I hear from my clients that they just can't fill roles. They just have empty roles because they can't find anybody to put into them.
Wow.
So definitely great. A lot of opportunities to do.
That's great to hear, Dr. Buell. You did mention, though, that PhD students in psychology are gravitating towards this area, but I assume, and I just want to hear you say, that there are opportunities for master's level folks.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting thing in our field, I think, because it's still relatively new, growing so rapidly. A few years ago especially, you had people coming from every direction, people kind of hacking their way into this field, just figuring out how to do this stuff on their own. And then suddenly they were getting jobs, and you had a lot of people coming over from other areas, applied insights, market research. That still happens to a degree, but I've seen a lot of change in the last few years. And now increasingly folks are entering this field with a master's degree. I think it's the most common route in. I think that's going to continue to increasingly be the case. You do have a lot of folks also coming in with a PhD, particularly certain companies, the Googles and the Facebooks, the Twitters. They really like those PhDs, but they still the majority of the researchers, I believe, do not have PhDs, and they hire a lot from the master's programs. What they're not really doing much of is hiring folks who only have a bachelor's degree. A little bit, but you have to have a pretty exceptional bachelor's degree experience to get in one of those companies, certainly.
Great.
And as I said, I think that there really has been a shift, and I think that shift is going to continue in coming years towards folks entering this field with some formal training. There are really only a handful of programs that provide training in this area, and I'm really pleased that MAP is now one of those. I want to talk a little bit about, if you are out there thinking, hey, I really want to go into UX research, I'm trying to decide if this is the program for me or I want to pursue another program, I want to tell you why I think MAP is your best choice. First, there's this growing focus in our field on grounding our research in academic theory, and especially psychological theory. Probably something to do with there being so many PhDs in the field, but also I think it's a sign of the field maturing and it's wanting to get away from just a lot of one-off studies and really trying to build a more comprehensive body of knowledge. And here at MAP, I think we provide that through the coursework that is required, as well as through the independent projects that you'll do in a way that other programs that are out there really aren't. Another thing that really stands out about MAP in comparison to some of those other programs is the quantitative skills that you develop. If you talk to MAP graduates over and over again, they'll tell you, Dr. Luke's class changed my life, and I think what's really exciting about some of the stuff that Dr. Luke teaches is that those techniques that come from other areas of applied insights research, that they've really grown. There's a lot of interest in them, and growing interest in user experience research, but most people have no training in them. So you would really stand out by being able to say, hey, I know how to do a conjoint. I can do MaxDiff, no problem, in a way that these other graduates in these other programs wouldn't be able to. I also want to call out that something that really I didn't fully appreciate about MAP when I first came involved, and I really think it's one of the greatest strengths, is our dedicated courses and faculty. If you look at a lot of other programs, and I encourage you to do this if you are thinking about any of the programs, look closely, you'll see that a lot of those classes, they're just classes that were plucked. They already existed. They were plucked into that program. A lot of times the faculty, too, our faculty were teaching other things, and actually a lot of them are researchers. Just recently, I talked to one of my clients at Google who does a lot of hiring at the entry level there for Google, and he said he went to a competitor program, and he said, it was great, but my main faculty advisor, he was a researcher, so it was just very much theory-driven. It was very much academic-driven. So that stuff I can't really apply in my job. I was really struck when I told them about the kind of applied experience that we give our students. And a great example of that is that all of our students are required to do an internship. So I'm doing more than one. When you apply for jobs, people are going to really want to know, what have you done? Show me those proof points. And our internships give you the chance to build those proof points. That's something also some of these other programs just don't provide. It's not part of the coursework, and they don't have time for it. I think that's also a real strength of the MAP experience. And finally, not to toot my own horn too much, but I do think that our UX research course is very strong. I've had many students say that it completely changed their direction. They're so excited to learn about UX research, and that the applied nature of the course helps them build the skills that they'll use as UX researchers in a very clear and comprehensive way. We focus a lot on doing actual projects in the course and creating professional deliverables. We actually, we don't just have you do assignments, we have you do them, present them to the whole class. You get feedback from all of us, including, of course, me, and sometimes guests I bring in, and then you go back and you iterate, and you make them even better. So by the end, every deliverable you created is something you can be really proud of, and something that when you apply for jobs and they say, okay, show me an example of a study you ran. For example, if you were to be so lucky to get an interview at Google, they would ask you to come in and present a study that you've done. You'll have that study ready to go, and it'll have been polished over the course of multiple iterations, and it's a lot of input. So I think that really can give you a launch pad that will take you through the application process and the interview process. And I've heard from my students who are out there in jobs that it allowed them to actually get a lot of traction in their jobs and show the value of user experience research and show how it can be done. So very proud of that, and of course happy to talk more about the details of the course and field more broadly in the Q&A.
Great, Dr. Buell. And I know that you said that the faculty in the MAP program all have contributions. You mentioned Dr. Luke Thiel, and I just want to point out in this picture here, this is the picture at graduation last year of every one of the faculty members in our program, and the students also report that the UX course interfaces with or builds upon other courses in ways that just strengthens their confidence as they go out into the job market, whether they're continuing or pivoting in their career. Thank you, Dr. Buell. We've really appreciated your insights, and I think I'm going to turn it back over to Jacqueline at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Leggett and Professor Buell, for your great insights. I mean, if you're ready to apply, we do accept applications throughout the year, as we have start dates in spring, summer, and fall. Currently, we are now accepting applications for the summer 2020 term, where classes begin Monday, May 18th, and then fall 2020 classes start September 7th. For the admissions requirements, we will require, of course, a completed application, bachelor's degree from an accredited institution with at least a 3.0 cumulative GPA, all official transcripts, GRE scores, statement of purpose, professional resume, and finally 3 letters of recommendation. The application deadline for our summer term is April 14th. If you're considering a fall start, that application deadline is August 5th. You can definitely feel free to contact us further to discuss the program and enrollment process. My contact information is going to be listed below. Again, my name is Jacqueline Campagna, and I'm the Senior Enrollment Advisor for this program. We also have Serena Dipp, and she's our Academic Advisor, a great resource as well. We've had several questions come through, so I'm going to open it up to some questions. And one of the first questions that came up, and I think is an important one given the situation with COVID and everything that's going on, Ellen or Professor Buell, do you want to discuss the dynamic of online learning and how it's different with this program than what college students are maybe experiencing now with them transitioning to the online platform that they're working with now?
Yes, I'm very happy to comment on that. I know that many students in the country, college students, high school students as well, have been immediately thrust into what is being called an online learning environment. But I feel that the experience that may be possible in a short-term emergency situation bears little resemblance to what might be encountered in our program, where our courses have had 5 years of experience being taught online. One of the main differences is that there's an awful lot of reliance upon Zoom at this point, because it's the fastest way for professors around the country to quickly pivot and teach the same course that they might have had on campus to an audience that's remote. Zoom is not the way that our courses are delivered. That requires everyone being able to log on at the same time, no matter where you are in the country. Our program is very different in that Moodle, which is a learning management system, some of you may have encountered that in college or high school. Moodle is highly programmed on a day-to-day basis for students, with discussion boards, materials to review, videos to watch. Some of our lessons are programmed in ways that are like you are visiting a website and you click and different things are revealed and different activities are available to you. And that can all be completed on your own time, with you sitting at home in California, doing it at the end of a workday, or in New York doing it whenever you have the opportunity. The Zoom, what we call live sessions, are very short. They exist in every program because we do think it's important for you to have face-to-face opportunities with the faculty and the students. And generally, they're every couple of weeks, not every week. I'd say on average for a 15-week class, you might have 5 sessions that are 1 hour long on Zoom. So that's the primary difference, I think, that we've been at this for a long time. Professors have been working to get their courses to be as interactive and as engaging as possible, and to facilitate what we call asynchronous learning, meaning that students can do a lot of the work at their own time, in their own time zone, which is state of the art for really good distance learning.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Leggett. Another great question that came through when we were discussing earlier the internship, the practicum portion of the program. Can you elaborate a little bit more on cross-training at your current place of work within this requirement?
Sure. When we have students in our online master's program, many of them are choosing to be an online student because they have a full-time job. And the term internship doesn't quite fit for people who are already working and are in need, in fact, of continuing with their full-time job. Thus, what we have worked very hard to do is create opportunities for students working with their manager, working with HR, to identify in their own organization someone who is doing work that they would like to learn more about that might align with what they're learning in the MAP program. For example, a student could be, I was just talking to a student who works in customer service, and she's one of the people that answers the phone when you call a company and need to talk to someone about a problem. And she's been in that role advancing. She does training in that role. She's a good person in that role, but she is now more interested in consumer insights and marketing. So in her company, there is a marketing department. She has had no contact with the marketing department until now. And she identified someone in the marketing department by going and talking to them, expressing her interest, telling them about her master's degree, and also talking to HR and to her current manager. And they created a situation where every week she is spending 1 day a week and doing some projects in the marketing department. Thus, she is still at her same place of work. She's still doing her regular job, but there's an organizational commitment to helping her expand her skills and contribute to what is being done in marketing. And these situations are very prevalent. Students have carved out opportunities to do something in UX or in organization learning and development if they're not in that department already. And sometimes they've even found big projects that have been on the back burner in their own department with no one having time to do it. And they agree that this could be a professional development opportunity for the MEP student. And since all of the internships are approved by me and the faculty, we work with students to help get these situations set up. But generally, students are remarkably creative. They know what they want. They know their organizations, and they go and talk to people. And we encourage that and usually endorse it when they've worked out something that sounds meaningful to them.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Leggett. On that topic, as we're talking about the practicum, what are some examples of treatise topics students have used in the past?
Oh my goodness, students do such interesting things in their opportunity to do a research project. I'll just give you some ideas of what is being done right now that I'm aware of. I have one student who's interested in the role that being tired at work plays in performance, and she's doing a survey asking people about whether they feel tired at work, what their habits are for sleeping, how many cups of coffee they need during the day, and she's trying to assess whether companies should be more sensitive to time of work hours and making opportunities available for employees to take more breaks. I have a student who's also doing a survey in both her home, which is South Korea, and in the U.S., and she's looking at the role of autonomy in work satisfaction. Also have a student who is interested in the consumer opportunities that exist when they are purchasing online. Like what are factors that lead consumers to abandon their shopping cart, which is a big problem. Those are just a few top of mind ones right now. Dr. Buell, have you worked with any students on projects that you want to mention?
Well, I'm actually still just getting started in my first round of treatise projects. So I don't have the breadth of experience that you do. From some of the projects that I've heard that students working on now, I think there's some interesting ones that touch on UX. One set of students are currently working on a project to try to optimize a automatic checkout experience. So a physical device that you interact with that's not operated by a person. You're checking out your products. Another student I know is I think still contemplating a project that would look at differences in how folks from different cultures interact with technology, something I have a little bit of a background in. Another potential interesting study.
I should say that students often do consulting projects for their treatise as well. If you are, again, some of these can be born through observing what your own company needs and developing an employee survey to understand for example, how an employee workforce feels about the corporate headquarters having just moved, or a plan to reorganize the office space. And students do consulting projects in our online program that are also sourced by the faculty, and we make these available to students by application so that they can get experience with actual clients.
Great. Thank you both so much. That was really, really helpful. Another great question that actually just came in. Considering that this program is 100% online, how does interaction between professors and students work? Are there times such as office hours in which professors may be available?
That's a great question, and we are very excited to talk about this because our faculty considers that mentoring is one of our main jobs, and we've actually done a survey, a study of what makes an ideal community for students and faculty. And one of the things we found from students was that they feel most connected to our program when they develop a relationship with faculty members. Faculty put themselves out there for students through many different ways. One is office hours, but it doesn't really work the way it does when you're on a college campus and you just walk in. Most of us have an app called Calendly where we make our hours available online, and students click and can put themselves into a time slot for a video conference call using Zoom or a phone call. Additionally, we encourage students to email us all the time. I'm going to let Dr. Buell tell you how he interacts with his students.
Yeah, absolutely. So focusing specifically on my class, a lot of different ways of interacting, and some are structured and built into the course, and some we develop as needed for each student. So one of the things that I really focus on in my class is giving a lot of individual personalized feedback. I'm very proud of the number of students who have said, I've never in my life received this level of feedback on my work in a class. I just think it's absolutely essential so we can help each student advance as much as possible and really make those assignments, deliverables that you can share as you move into the job market. So that's one of the primary ways of interacting. Also in the online systems we use, well, most of us, I think all of us have a certain number of in-person classes. In my class, we have 5 of those, 5 one-hour classes throughout the semester. And then there we have live interactions mediated by Zoom. But that's a lot less, of course, than you'd have in a typical in-person class. So what we have lots of instead is lots of interactions on the discussion boards, all of that feedback that I provide, I structure into my assignments. Like I said, a lot of them are iterative. And with all my assignments, in addition to the assignment itself, I have students submit a cover letter where they talk to me about how they did the assignment and how what they learned from it and why they made certain choices. So there's sort of that meta conversation as well. It's the kind of thing that might just happen naturally in class, but we build it in a systematic way. I build it in my online class. And then for other interactions outside of the structured class interactions, I don't tend to hold office hours because I find, as particularly for the online students, people have really different schedules. This last semester, I had a student who was in Germany, students all across the country. Some people are working full-time jobs, and those hours can vary quite a bit. So because of all that, just do it all ad hoc, and I really encourage students to connect as much as possible. It's great I try to meet with every student one-on-one at least once, and some of them quite a few times over the course of the semester. And I'd say one of the things I think that's really great about MAP for me, and I think that a lot of our faculty would agree with this, is I'm invested in this program for a number of reasons, but one is I really want to make the contribution to my field, my applied field, and I love having colleagues now in my field that are MAP graduates, and I want to grow that number. I want to have lots more, and in part because of that motivation, I've continued to have relationships with lots of MAP graduates. I learn a lot from them as they go through their careers, whether in UX or in other areas. As I mentioned, I was just chatting by email last night with a student and giving her some coaching as she moves into this next interview opportunity she has. I'd say probably every week I interact with at least one, if not more, MAP alum or alum of my course. At least they may still be in the MAP program as well. So I think that longer-term relationship with MAP is also something that really defines our program and is a huge advantage for our program.
And Dr. Buell, thank you for that. I think I should have mentioned earlier that one of the things that maybe is different in our program is that classes are small, even online. We have an upper limit of about 22, 23 students in a class, so that there is no sense that you're anonymous at all. Faculty know who you are. You know each other, and we find that we get to know the online students really well, even through the discussion boards, which are all typing, but people type a lot and are very open in sharing, so that the relationships, surprisingly, are quite robust. And small classes help, but also faculty members who really want to be connected to students and invite student connection for mentoring, as you can see with Dr. Buell, is a key part of our program. And I think that what Dr. Buell said is indicative of how most professors are. I know for myself, I am in constant contact with alums. Alums are very supportive of this program and of the students.
Great, thank you both so much. And oh, sorry. Another great question that came in. Oh, I'm sorry, Ellen, you go ahead.
You go ahead.
Another great question that came through, it was mentioned earlier that some of the companies students have had the opportunity to work for. Does USC have any partnerships with any of these companies or different types of companies?
We have partnerships, but perhaps not in the way that might be intended by that question. We are constantly in touch with companies. Certainly, Dr. Buell himself works at Answer Lab and is able to bring the best of Answer Lab to our students. We, every year, are looking for more companies to partner with for projects for our students, and that's the primary way that we have partnerships.
Great.
Yeah, it might be worth noting, too, that I've often spoken to folks in other companies outside of Answer Lab who have really robust internship programs, and they'll say what we love is getting all those great MAP interns, and they see that MAP interns is a core part of their annual internship classes. So there are many people who it's maybe not a formal partnership, but they have a long relationship with MAP, and they're coming back over and over again because they want to get those terrific interns.
Yeah, that's very well said. We have many companies and organizations that seek our students and we have long relationships with them, but I don't know how one would define that. It's not a formal partnership, but it's certainly a supportive relationship. We also have a professional advisory council that I meet with. In fact, Dr. Buell started out on that, I believe, where we have senior leaders, faculty generally, on where there are new directions and opportunities for the program. I see a question that, Jacqueline, I don't know if you see it, but I see a question, is UX research similar or in the same field as human factors? And I think that actually is a good question. Do you want to tackle that, Jason?
Sure thing. Yeah, definitely there is overlap. Human factors is a longer standing field with deep academic roots. And a lot of folks, that is one of the entryways into UX research now. A good number of my clients have human factors degrees, and some of them even have human factors titles. A lot of times the title will change based on the traditions of that company or preferences of that company. And they might be doing the exact same work, whether their title says human factors or UX researcher, just at a different company. I'd say that there are some differences. Human factors is very much focused on the evaluative side of the work, less of that more strategic discovery focused in the work. It's more closely aligned with certain structured and engineering-oriented approaches, tends to be looking at in real life experiences and hardware more so than digital experiences or other kinds of service environments. You know, how do you proceed through a store, for example, could very much be a UX question, probably wouldn't be tackled by someone who calls themselves a human factors researcher in the same way. So in some, I'd say definitely overlap, but I think UX is probably in many ways a broader field as well as a more emerging and still defining itself discipline.
Also, human factors is very focused on accidents and a lot of accident analysis for operator error versus other elements that are involved in understanding industrial accidents as a big focus of human factors.
Awesome. Great. I think we have time for at least one more question. One that came through. Have any alum gotten into the entertainment industry with this degree, like film, television, etc.?
With the MEP degree generally? Oh, absolutely. We're well represented, especially being out here on the West Coast and in Los Angeles. We have alums working in both what I would call the organizational HR side of these organizations, as well as the consumer audience testing side. I just yesterday got an email from an alum who's at Amazon Studios in Consumer Insights saying they're hiring. Do I have any students? I just last week placed an alum with another alum at Universal Music Group in learning and development and organizational development. I'd say we've had long history of students going to Disney and basically all the studios. We have students right now doing internships at Ticketmaster and internships at Legendary Studios. There is a big path from our program into the entertainment industry generally.
Yeah, and I can add that if you're also interested in UX research, that's a great area of opportunity. Certainly all entertainment companies are becoming tech companies right now. In some sense, probably all companies are becoming tech companies, but much more so and much sooner in the entertainment industry. And gosh, if you look at what's happening right now across the world, we see that actually business is growing very rapidly for a lot of those entertainment companies. They're all trying to figure out how to improve their online and digital experiences in particular. Business has been very, very busy for me in recent weeks because there's such a demand for these user experience research services that we offer. And I think MAP, with our traditional connection to entertainment, gaming industry so strong here in LA, so we have a lot of strong roots there. We're really well positioned to exploit that going forward.
Great. Okay, I think we actually have time for one final question. One that came in: are qualitative psychology skills ever used in this field?
I'm going to turn that over to you, Dr. Buell.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that UX research is probably about 80% qualitative and about 20% quantitative. In my class, we focus primarily on the qualitative side, both because it's more dominant in the field and also because you'll get so much great quant training in your other courses in MAP. But they're both really strong and important, and no matter what job you do and how you conduct your research in this field, you'll be working alongside people who are doing qual or quant. many folks also take a mixed methods approach.
We value both in the MAP program, and I think that we've traditionally had strong quantitative skills, and our students who have gone off into consumer insights have succeeded because they've been well trained in quantitative skills. But we also have qualitative in the program. Every student designs and conducts their own focus group and writes it up for a presentation. And certainly Dr. Buell's class takes the qualitative approach in a very deliberate way in order to round out what students can be exposed to in the program.
Awesome. So we're at that hour mark. A lot of really, really great questions came in. If we didn't get to your question, we will be sure to contact you directly to get those addressed. But definitely want to thank you all for joining. And Dr. Leggett, Dr. Buell, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and sharing all of this great information.
You're very welcome. I look forward to having the opportunity to perhaps get to know any of you. You can certainly reach out for more information directly to us, and we wish you all health and safety, and congratulations on thinking about the future and your own education.